Welcome to Operation Vagabond Falcon Part 8. We have 2 months to finish this car, and that's not really 2 months, that's 8 Saturdays. So, these videos are going to take center stage until we're done. These are now the Monday morning videos until we finish. Now that all the valves are into the cylinder heads, I can compress the valves using a valve compressor, which is nothing but a big lever that fits over the valve and shoves them down so I can put the little clips on there. There you go. All the valves in, all the valve springs in. The engine block is painted and I peel off all the painter's tape. I then clean the head surface with brake cleaner and go get the head gasket so nicely provided from Advanced Auto Parts. They come with an instruction booklet and tell you in what order you're to tighten down the head bolts. You don't tighten and torque them down all the way. You do them in 2 steps. The first thing you do is you go around and you tighten them to 35 foot-pounds. And then you go around again and tighten them to the full 55. And then once you reach that, you do a quarter turn. You turn it 90 degrees. The low-tech way to do that is to draw a line on the bolt from 12 o'clock and then turn it so that line points to 3 o'clock. Or if you have a fancy snap-on torque wrench like Bruce does that tells you what degree you're turning. So I just turn it 90 degrees and wait for it to beep. I'm using the previous intake manifold, which is really for a 289, just here as a painting mask. So I can just paint whatever and I don't have to worry about getting paint down into the valves. And by that I mean lifters. Now the push rods can go in. Later on we replaced these with hardened push rods because we were using guide plates, so don't worry. In the final version there are hardened push rods in there. Now we can put on the roller tip rockers supplied by Speedway. And the cause of all the pulley problems, the mechanical fuel pump. Yeah, we have a 1993 block with a 1968 timing cover and Marsh pulleys to try to make this all line up just because I wanted a mechanical fuel pump. And now it's in. And our headers go on. These are shorty headers from Pipes Performance in Hatfield. I've been waiting to put these on, but we had a problem with these roller tip rockers. You see how the intake rocker is offset, and all of them are past center line. They're just plain too long. And changing the guide plates to 68 guide plates didn't work either. This is what happens. We didn't really predict this. The HO heads for a 93 HO 302 motor are pedestal mount, which we converted to stud mount. But what we didn't predict, and I didn't do the research yet, is to discover if an HO head is different than a stock 302 head, which is then also different from the GT40 heads. I probably could have avoided all this by going to GT40 heads and calling it a life, but I didn't do that. So the solution is to get adjustable guide plates, which can be moved to the correct angle so the push rods sit correctly and don't get pushed from one side to the other, and then tack welded in place to make them strong. And Speedway was helpful enough to go, okay, if those roller tip rockers are wrong, we'll go to full roller rockers that are a little bit shorter. And for the GM guys, these are Chevy roller rockers. So, I mean, they're not a Chevy product, but they are designed for a Chevy motor. So, there's a little bit of GM in this Ford. But look at that. They all go up and down and they're all on center line. Bruce tack welded them in place. And by that, I mean tack welded their width because they're adjustable. And there, it's done. All the rockers work. Now it's time to adjust them for proper lift. To adjust the intake valve, you need to move the exhaust valve. You do this by putting a crank on the crankshaft, and by that I mean, a big breaker bar, and turn it until the exhaust push rod, or in this case, I'm just looking at the rocker, until the exhaust rocker just starts to move up. And now, the intake rocker can now be adjusted. And the way you adjust it, there are other videos out there showing how to do this. What you do is you grab the push rod there and, okay, you can feel that it's loose. You can just spin it. What you do is start turning down that adjuster bolt on top of the rocker until you start to feel resistance on the push rod. That means there's preload on it. Then what you do is you turn that adjuster bolt on top 1/2 turn with your wrench. And there's a little Allen bolt inside that locks it in. You tighten that down. And there, your valve is adjusted. Now to adjust the exhaust valve, it's a little bit different. To adjust the exhaust valves, you turn the engine over until the intake rocker moves all the way up and then keep rotating the engine until it comes a half to 2/3 of the way back down. I went by half. Now that means the exhaust lifter is now at its base circle and you can adjust the exhaust valve. You see how it's a little bit different? When you were adjusting the intake valve, the exhaust valve, you move it when it just starts to come up. But when you adjust the exhaust valve, the intake comes up and then goes back down halfway. Ford. Unless it's different for everybody. I don't know. I'm learning with a Ford, so this is the Ford way. And then you adjust it the same way. The push rod spins, you crank down that nut on top until you feel resistance, and then you turn it another halfway, or half turn, and lock down the nut on top, and you're done. Now, some people go in the order, the firing order throughout the engine. I just went down the line of the head, and to keep myself from getting confused, I got one of those shop crayons and put an X on every single rocker, letting me know that the valve is adjusted. Okay, you're done with this one, don't come back to it. And now finally I get to put on the valve covers, those nice black ones we got from Speedway. So again, thank you, Speedway. Look at that. The motor is called the 302 Redeemer, and she's done. It's a good start. We got a lot to do, but our motor is as close as it can be to done. I mean, we have to adjust timing and we have to deal with that distributor, but there are plenty of videos, and the guys from Roadkill did videos showing how to set your timing on a distributor going into an engine for the first time. We'll cover that, maybe. But there she is. The Redeemer. I want to put the motor mounts on too, because they're not going to use the stock motor mounts because it's going with a TCI suspension. Again, the exhaust headers are from Pipes Performance in Hatfield, and that's a Pennsylvania company. And thank you so much to Bruce Henn for showing me how to do this and for doing the hard stuff for me and letting me film you. Thank you to Advanced Auto Parts. Thank you to Speedway. And we'll get to the TCI stuff soon enough. We got some stuff to straighten out with that. Next time on Operation Vagabond Falcon, the old 144 comes out.